Welcome back to my little channel. Today's video will be about a topic that I kind of wanted to address some time ago, but I forgot about it. But today I got reminded of it. The welfare or aid mafia. What is the welfare or aid mafia? Well, they don't call themselves mafia, that's for sure. But these are the organizations that try to bleed you of your money so that they can pretend to help other people. Pretend? Well, that's rather harsh. Well, maybe, but it's still true. Okay, first off, which organizations am I talking about? Well, organizations like Oxfam Novib or UNICEF. There are many more. I'll not name them one by one because I can't be arsed. The principle of these organizations is the same. Look at how terrible things are in this part of the world. Do you feel that you can help? Do you feel that you need to help? In case of yes, donate money to said organization. That's basically it. I mean, you don't know what they do with that money. Oh, they can claim all sorts of things, but you don't really know. And the one thing we do know is that if we look at UNICEF, UNICEF got started after the Second World War to help rebuild the European countries devastated by the war. Which is a good thing, don't get me wrong, but eventually these countries did rebuild. They rebuilt rather fast. Maybe that's because of the help of UNICEF, maybe it's because of the Marshall Plan, maybe it's because of something else. Which thing would that be? Well, I would say the social structure of Western countries. Because people in the Western countries don't like to be dependent on handouts. So they try to remove that negative status as fast as they could by rebuilding their countries as fast as they could. Okay, so far so good. Then what's the problem? Well, if we look at UNICEF, they are no longer only active in countries that were ravaged by the Second World War. One of the reasons being that that was more than 70 years ago. But where are they active? Well, they are active in a lot of countries, for example, in the Middle East, in Asia, and in Africa. Well, that's not a negative thing. Yeah, it doesn't have to be a negative thing, but it is. Because they're not really giving aid. But they like to think they are giving aid, and they like to tell you they are giving aid. What they are doing is they are feeding poor children up to a certain age, because after a certain age, they are no longer children. They are to be self-sufficient, which often they are not, which causes great turmoil and unrest in the countries they are in. And this in itself creates a feedback loop, which creates more need for aid workers. And this is the problem with organizations like UNICEF, Oxfam Novib, and many others I'll not mention now because I'm lazy. You can Google them yourself. The problem of aid workers like this, or as I said, the aid mafia or welfare mafia, is that they create a dependence, and because of that dependence, they are never short of tear-jerking video clips asking you for your money. Now, should we let those children die? Should we just turn around and walk away? I'd prefer not to. Don't get me wrong. I do think we need to help these people. But handing them money is not the way to help them. Handing them food is not the way to help them. We need to be able to say, okay, you know what? These are the tools. This is the job. From now on in, it's not up to us. The problem with that is that, unfortunately, there's a whole continent of people that have been forced into dependency by these aid mafia organizations, which unfortunately means a lot of people will die before they will be self-sufficient, no matter how much money we pump in there. Considering the amount of money that we have given to these countries, it's a miracle. No, maybe not a miracle. It's a disaster that these people are still not self-sufficient in any way. No. Instead of being self-sufficient, they are quite able to blame each other, and of course, white Western world, for their fallacies, for their failings. But instead of addressing their failings, the Western world is more than willing to fork over huge amounts of cash, foods, and supplies, which in itself creates the feedback loop of kids getting older, older kids not being able to fend for themselves, and the next famine is there. Yeah, but Africa, and it's bad to build and grow crops there. No, that's not true. Zimbabwe used to be the grain shed of Africa. They used to have loads of surplus food. South Africa still used to have surplus food. Okay, natural disasters notwithstanding. I mean, I'm sure that sometimes something happens, etc., etc., etc. But on average, they can grow food. So what goes wrong? Well, they don't have to grow food. They don't have to work. Because if it goes bad, the West will fork over help. If it goes well, that help will disappear. Yeah, that's a rather bleak view of things, isn't it? Yeah, it is. Prove me wrong. Show me an example where this is not the case. Unfortunately, I fear you might not be able. Is all welfare aid bad? No, not all welfare aid is bad. There are organizations out there that try to help the world with microcredits. Why is this helpful? Well, because you give them money, fair is fair, but that money is then supposed to be used for them to start up a company or something like that. And if they can't, well, yeah, okay, sorry, your microcredit is gone. You've lost your investment. But there is no other help. So it gives these people an incentive to be successful. Funny enough, this is once again proof that capitalism is better than socialism. Because where people are being helped by microcredits, these microcredits are way more successful than all the aid work in these countries combined. And these aid works are, whether you like it or not, socialism. And those microcredits, whether you agree with them or not, are capitalism. We really need to recognize the problem that organizations like UNICEF are causing worldwide. Not combating, no, causing. And it's this stupid that in Europe, for example, we now have this huge problem with aid mafia boats traveling between Italy and Libya to taxi in more refugees. Why? Well, because it helps someone. But who does it help? Because let's be honest, the richer people will probably be able, or the braver people will probably be able, to try and escape Africa through Libya over the sea. But these are hands that the countries in Africa could use to rebuild their country, which still hasn't happened. You can't blame colonialism for this. I'm sorry, it's more than 70 years ago since the Second World War, and I'm willing to believe that the Second World War had a devastating effect on Africa as well. But you can't tell me that they still have a devastating effect because of the Second World War. Yeah, but it's because of insert random storyline here. It could be because of the mafia, it could be because of drugs, it could be because of corruption. All of these things could be true. Do you really think that handing them money will change this? Handing them food and supplies because they need it will change this? Because I don't think so. And history has shown us that this is not the case. I know it's a ramble, I know it's a rant. I will have links provided down below, and I hope you will read into them. And feel free to tell me where you think I am wrong. But I really believe that we need to stop with organizations like UNICEF or Oxfam Novib, because they are not helping anyone. They are burning the Western world for food and money to aid the African, Middle Eastern, Asian world, but just enough to keep them alive for a short period of time, so that when these kids that got aid whilst they were kids, when they are adults, they can't be able to support themselves, need more aid, that aid isn't there, and then create a feedback loop. We will feed you when you're young, but when you're an adult, you have to fend for yourself, which then, in case, creates rebellions, civil unrest, and that, in cause, creates children needing aid. I really hope we will recognize this, and I really do hope we recognize this soon, because if we look in Europe now, most of the migrants coming to Europe are these people. People that are only alive because of the welfare aid and the food aid and etc. in Africa that has been going on for decades. But Africa itself, most of the countries in Africa now, are still unable to fend for themselves. We need to help these countries. We need to teach them to fend for themselves. Because in all fairness, if you go to a nature park in America or in Germany, those are the two countries where the biggest ones are, they will tell you not to feed the animals, because feeding the animals create dependencies, and then the animals will die, because if you don't feed them, they'll not be able to fend for themselves. Funny enough, we don't care that we do the very same thing in the poorer countries in the world. We make them dependent, and now they can't fend for themselves. Now, microcredits seem to be a working system to prevent all of this shit from happening. We need to work more with microcredits, make people responsible for their own situation. The funny thing about microcredits is that it actually works. The difference between microcredits and what UNICEF is doing, or what Oxfam Novib is doing, is capitalism versus socialism. Funny how that goes. Now, is microcredit always successful? No. There are people who abuse the system. There always are. But in the end, they will only hurt themselves. I mean, yeah, it might hurt the people spotting the money from the Western world, but hey, it's a small money. It's a small amount of money, sorry. So this can be written off. But people who are successful with microcredits actually pay back their debt. And they contribute to their country. I guess in reality, this is where we need to go. We need to stop handing help. And we need to teach people how to help themselves. But we do that. No, we don't. We say we do that. Give me the name of the country where traditional welfare aid, help mafia, is no longer needed. Where organizations like UNICEF or Oxfam Novib are no longer needed. Seriously, name one country in the non-Western world where these organizations have made themselves absolute. They haven't. They're still there. Because if they aren't there, then what reason do you have to give them money? Funny enough, that's the whole thing. They're only in it for your money. They're not in it to help these people. Helping them is a side quest, so to speak. And hey, sometimes they reach 21. Sometimes they don't. And once they reach 21, well, fuck them. They're no longer children. Did we help them then? No. We only set a country up to fail once again. Please, people, if you do anything, stop giving your money to organizations like UNICEF, Oxfam Novib, and all the other welfare mafia companies out there. Because they are destroying not just the Western world, but the very countries they claim to help. Anyway, this is my long rant. Criticism, as always, is more than welcome. I love to hear what you have to say, and I hope to see you all soon.